Hey everybody, this is Joe Bartnick and welcome to Bert Sugarman's Midnight Special Podcast. We are so happy you are here because we are building a community on this channel. We're collecting photos and memories, and basically we are preserving the greatest music ever assembled from the 50s, 60s, and 70s. Some of it's still around today for future fans, like my co-host Mike Now. Mike, you're going to love this. Today's episode, the one and only Gordon Lightfoot is hosting.
Yes, and thank you, everybody, for your submissions and helping us make a time capsule of Gordon Lightfoot. We have some stories, we have some good pictures, we have all sorts of memories, and he had a great lineup around him this week.
The show is insane, as we're going to get to in a bit.
Yeah, I can't wait to get into it. But first, let's get into some of your comments about the previous episodes.
Love feedback, most of it.
So, Bobo Spackle Monkey, I was born in 66 and grew up on all my parents' classic vinyl learning to play the drums. Then discovered the Midnight Special when it first premiered growing up on the original MTV.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was saying. When people used to stay up, when I was a kid, to stay up to watch the Midnight Special because there was no MTV. All we had was the Midnight Special, and I totally remember vinyl because it was my parents. I think everyone's parents, most people's parents, just treated it like it was gold. You had to watch how you held the record and how you put it on, and thank God there was the automatic record. You hit the button and it would go down, because the ones you had, I was not allowed to find the song in the middle because that meant surgeon precision and you're going to scratch the record.
That was technology that growing up it was like foreign, wouldn't touch, nothing, no clue about. Finally got a record player a few years ago so I could feel retro and try and impress some friends.
Right.
And yeah, it's a foreign technology to get used to. And then I do have the insecureness of, am I going to scratch a record? How delicate are they? Like, I haven't messed anything up yet, but I'm always weary.
Yeah, well, at least they're your own records. You never want to scratch your dad's records. I'm actually going to buy my daughter a record player this Christmas because she's going to Amoeba. And that's not a cheap plug, but the greatest record store on earth up in Berkeley, which is the one I used to go to. We used to have to cross the bridge with San Francisco. Now there's 3 locations, but the one in Berkeley, I'm like, I'm going to buy you a record player for Christmas.
Nice.
Oh, here we go. In from @IrishGigs. I've played a lot of Irish gigs, a lot of Irish bars. Here we go. My first time to listen here, not the last. Well, welcome. Wolfman Jack. Love listening to him. Lots of the names from the past. I saw many of them in shows, but I was front row at the dinner theater for Mr. B.B. King. He talked about the events in his life and played his guitar for hours. I can close my eyes and see it now. Can't we all? He was older, so he sat. The night was out of this world. One of the most important gigs of my life. I married a professional musician. Love the show. Well, thanks, Irish Gigs. I mean, that's some really... I mean, thank you.
Yeah. Love the show is the first love the show we got.
Love the show. But also, he married a musician, so he loves music.
Yeah, and I bet he gets to see all sorts of shows because of that.
Yeah, exactly.
It's nice to be married to someone who wants to drag you to fun performances and things like that. Being around the arts, that's special.
As someone who's married to, as someone who is the Mary E, I guess, I don't know. I literally do have to drag my wife to most of my gigs.
Does she ever give you feedback on the jokes?
No, yeah, she hears them all in the kitchen 30 times beforehand. If it's a really great show, she'll show up. But you know, the normal everyday ones, she's not at the Irish Gigs.
Oh, all right, no, none of the Irish gigs. Well, our old buddy Rob Matlock, he commented, and we thank him for all of his photo submissions also. But Rob Matlock, sometimes the blues is all a man can sing. The blues episode was the best. I had to watch it twice. Great podcast. I love the insight into the music. I call the Midnight Special chat room my college of musical knowledge. I find out about the makeup of the bands and who they played with previously from lifelong fans of the acts. Way cool. Love the podcast. Keep up the good work. Thank you, Rob, and we appreciate you being part of the podcast.
Yeah, I mean, thanks for the compliments, Rob, and thanks for the pictures. I mean, no one wants to look at me anymore.
Speaking of the pictures, we can get right back into a few more from Rob. Here's Rob right off the bat. Back when I had hair, enlisting in the Air National Guard in December 1977.
Oh, that was before the haircut scene.
Yes. And
he had a nice head of hair, too. What a shame.
Here's his brother and himself in Denver in 1978, just after he finished Air Force basic training.
Right. Oh, his hair looks good there.
Yeah. And then the Space Shuttle Enterprise making its visit to the American Airlines facility in Tulsa, Oklahoma in 1978.
That is a time capsule because I remember whenever the Space Shuttle had to do like a piggyback ride.
Yeah, that is an amazing picture you got there. Appreciate it.
I actually had the Matchbox version of that when I was a little kid, like the shuttle that rode on top of 747.
All right, now that we're doing space travel, let's just hop right into the time machine and go back to February 22nd, 1974, when Gordon Lightfoot was the host of the Midnight Special.
Oh, my God. What a great episode. What a great year. My sister was born in 74.
Nice. Well, hopefully she wasn't haunted because The Exorcist was still holding the #1 spot at the box office for a 12-week run, making it the highest-grossing film that year.
You know, the name Exorcist still haunts people. It's still chilling. Just the word The Exorcist and people freak out.
They can put that plus another name or anything else in a movie every 1 or 2 years, and it'll usually go top 10.
Absolutely.
Yeah, a little bit of money in an exorcism film, and it's a genre.
Yeah.
In the U.S., the #1 song was The Way We Were by Barbra Streisand from the movie The Way We Were, starring Barbra Streisand and Robert Redford.
There was nothing at the time bigger than that movie. And my mother, Italian lady, growing up, a younger woman at that age, obviously younger, the biggest Streisand. I mean, I think every woman that age was a Streisand fan. It was nuts, and that movie was everywhere. And that song, "The Way We Were," I'm not going to sing it again. I sang it in the pre-production. I made our dog really freak out. He's like, "Shut up!" It was incredible, and Streisand is still so huge, and it's still probably my mom's favorite entertainer ever. And I'm going to tell a real quick story. And I felt bad I wasn't paying attention because I would have done it for my mother. The way to get into Hollywood, you have to go over the Hollywood Hill. If you don't live in Hollywood, I live in Pasadena. So there's where the Hollywood Bowl is. So I always drive past Hollywood Bowl trying to pick when you can skate through without getting for the concert. I went a couple hours before. There was limousines backed up over the hill. And I'm like, who the hell is playing? What is going on? I drive past. It said Barbra Streisand. I'm like, oh my God. I should have sold my kidneys to get my mother tickets to see Streisand at the Hollywood Bowl.
With that Hollywood Bowl parking, you'd have had to get there the day before, too, in one of those limos.
Well, in the following episode, I will give my secret to the Hollywood Bowl where to park.
Oh, I'm here for
it. Yeah. You have to tune in next week. I should have had the BB King episode because that's when I saw it. I utilized it then for BB King.
Nice.
Yes.
You got to know all the secrets.
Absolutely for the Hollywood Bowl, for sure.
All right, well, the #1 song in the UK at that time was Devilgate Drive by Suzi Quatro.
Love Suzi Quatro.
Another veteran of the Midnight Special.
Absolutely.
Pretzel Logic, Steely Dan's third studio album, was released this week, and it had the hit Ricky Don't Lose That Number on there.
Ricky Don't Lose That Number. I mean, the only song that has more of a phone number to that is Tommy Two-Tone, 8675309.
I knew that was coming.
I hope Ricky didn't lose that. I hope he didn't lose Tommy Tunes. I hope he didn't lose Jenny's number. It's Jenny's number.
Helen Reddy and Jim Croce win the first ever American Music Awards this week.
Yeah, we got to tease Jim Croce's coming up soon.
Yeah, that'll be a good episode. We have to have one of him. And Tim Horton, famous hockey player and founder of Tim Hortons restaurant chain, passed away in a car crash at age 44.
Yes, I mean, you know how much I love hockey and I love donuts. Big loss. It's just crazy that Tim Horton is that famous. I mean, only like Wayne Gretzky is more famous than Tim Horton.
And this episode, to line things up, is a very Canadian episode. So the fact that all of this lines up in that way between Gordon Lightfoot and then the Guess Who being on there, right. I mean, it's a very, very Canada.
And one of my fun facts will be Canadian-based.
Yes. All right.
Actually, a couple of them, to be honest with you.
All right. Since this is an all-Canada episode, let's start off in Toronto with Gordon Lightfoot singing as a choir boy at Macy Hall at the age 12 when he won a singing competition. Later in high school, he went on to join a quartet called the Teen Timers.
That must have been a party. You know what's? I actually played Macy Hall or Massey Hall. It's in Greektown. Great gyros or heroes, however you want to call them.
Nice. I'm always up for
Massey or Macy.
Yeah.
Gyro, hero.
Yeah, we're smart guys here. Yeah. Linguistics is our thing.
Yeah. I'm just like, the lamb thingy.
Yeah, I'm more of a linguini than a linguistics guy.
Look at that.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Lightfoot taught himself to play piano, percussion, and guitar before moving to California in 1958 to study jazz at Westlake College of Music.
That is one thing he wrote so many songs. I mean, he knew everything about music.
In 1965, Bob Dylan's manager signed Lightfoot, and United Artists produced his debut album, Lightfoot! 30 years later, Bob Dylan would induct him into the Canadian Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Wow, look at that. You know, Bob Dylan is famously quoted saying, "There's not one Gordon Lightfoot song I don't like."
During Lightfoot's early years, his songs were covered by legends like Elvis Presley, Barbra Streisand, Johnny Cash, and the Grateful Dead.
Yeah.
And those are just a few. The amount of people who have done Gordon Lightfoot songs, it goes on and on.
Oh, I know. Yeah, those are some of the big boys.
Yeah. Being the folk legend that he was, Lightfoot made the Gibson B45 12-string guitar famous all across Canada.
I think that's why his music sounds so chilling, because it's a 12-string.
To give that fullness of sound, I think really makes a rich difference.
There is something completely captivating about one man in an acoustic guitar. And that's what Gordon Lightfoot could do.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
It's almost intimidating. Like everyone else needs the band, needs everything else. No, this person, whether it's a small room or a huge arena, it's like just them and a guitar.
Yes.
Well, in June 1974, his classic single Sundown from the album Sundown went #1 on the American and Canadian charts.
Such a great song. And you're going to see it on this episode.
Yes, it closes
you gotta
the
wait
episode.
till the end.
Yeah, the best encore. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. In late November 1975, Lightfoot read a Newsweek magazine article about the loss of the SS Edmund Fitzgerald, which sank on November 10th, 1975 on Lake Superior during a severe storm and lost all 29 crew members. The lyrics in his song, The Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald, released the following year, was substantially based on the facts in this article. It reached #2 on the U.S. charts.
You know what I thought was really nice is he kept in touch with a lot of survivors' families and reached out and really, tried to be a part of their lives in the sense of just helping where he could. I mean, that really was a tragedy. I can't even imagine drowning a ship. Like I could see a sailboat, but a USS on a lake. I mean, that's in the 70s. You would think it happened in like the Civil War or something. I mean, it's really incredible.
Yeah, and speaking of the Edmund Fitzgerald, in the honor of the Gordon Lightfoot, the Mariners Church in Detroit rang its bell 30 times on the day after his death. 29 times for the crew members who lost their lives on the Edmund Fitzgerald, and 1 for Lightfoot.
It's chilling.
Yeah.
I mean, I wish I would listen to the lyrics closer because it's just like a nifty song to listen to. And I didn't know, like, how many times have you heard that? I was like, I didn't know it was like Lake Michigan or Lake Superior, excuse me. I thought it was like in the ocean in like 1700, like John Paul Jones went down. I didn't know it was like in America in the 70s. It's crazy.
Speaking of his lyrics, he's made some alterations over the years to some of his songs, sometimes changing them and sometimes outright not singing the songs anymore.
A little brown sugar action.
Yeah, that's what you get for loving me, he was quoted saying. I learned a lot of things from the many women I met. One of the things was, don't write songs that are chauvinistic. And boy, I wrote a couple at the start, like, that's what you get for loving me. Oh my goodness, I'll never write another song like that. He also changed the lyrics to If You Could Read My Mind per his daughter's request. He changed the lyrics of Feelings You Lack to Feelings We Lack.
Yeah, that's a classy move. Even if he meant you lack, it's like you never want to make your daughter sad.
Yeah. Yeah, just suck it up and take it mutual and wear your half of the responsibility.
Exactly. Keep your head up high. No, it definitely just. I have a daughter, so it's like you never want to be like I don't say something mean through a song.
Yeah,
at my wife that my daughter's not up for.
You don't want to say anything mean, period. But when you're a lyricist of this level, it's like can't imagine wielding the power of that sharp a blade.
Well, it is to a very. It's humbling when you have to be like, yeah, it's kind of my fault too.
Yeah,
to change the feelings you have to the feelings we have. It's huge.
Right, yeah, and it probably took some years and time to think about it and then come to that change.
Just took his daughter walking in the studio. You shouldn't say that about mom. Okay.
Well, he had such a long career to think about the evolution and change the words of how he felt because, he had a lot of time to think about the lyrics over his long career because he recorded until the year 2020 when he released his final album titled Solo. marking his 21st studio album released 54 years after his debut album.
54 years.
Any career for 54 years of any type.
Anything for 54 years. Marriage, anything.
Well, that's some of the facts that I got to throw at everybody. So what do you got?
I have some fun facts here. One is, you think Gordon Lightfoot, you think a musical guy, acoustic guitar guy, musician. He actually was on his high school's track and field team, and he had the record shot put and pole vault.
God, so he can sing, play guitar, and is an athlete.
Yeah.
I just don't like that. That's too much.
He was one of the first 4 Canadians in the arts to get a postage stamp from the Canadian Post. 1 of 4. The other 3 are Paul Anka, Joni Mitchell, and Anne Murray.
Nice. Definitely some Midnight Special alumni on that list.
Exactly. It's an interesting one. Speaking of years in between, he was asked by Trudeau to sing at the 150th anniversary or birthday of Canada on Canadian Day on Parliament Hill. That's July 1st is Canadian Day. He sang at the 150th anniversary or birthday. While he was on stage, he reminded Mr. Trudeau he actually sang at the 100th anniversary birthday too. Here's an interesting fun fact. It includes hockey, so I'm very interested. In 1991-92, it was the NHL's 75th anniversary, and every team got an honorary captain. Gordon Lightfoot was the honorary captain for his beloved Toronto Maple Leafs.
I bet he got drug out to sing a few anthems or two.
Yeah, he got to hang out in the locker room. That's great stuff. They were great in the early 90s, too. Never won the cup then, but at least he was old enough to remember seeing them win in the 60s, so good on him. And also, it's an interesting fun fact that he went to court to sue Michael Masser for 24 bars of If You Could Read My Mind because they sounded like Whitney Houston's The Greatest Love, which also was recorded by George Benson. And the reason why he went to sue him was not for the money. He just wanted to make sure people knew that he came up with it first.
Right. He didn't want anyone to think that he was out here ripping off this guy. Yeah, it's like, I
Exactly.
can't let anyone think that.
And it was settled out of court like gentlemen.
Nice.
Way to go, Mr. Lightfoot.
Yeah. I mean, this day and age, some of these guys are making a hefty penny off people sampling their music. So
Yeah. Gordon thought actually someone was reading his mind and stealing his lyrics. Or his 24 bars.
all right. Well, that gets us ready to dig into this episode.
What a great episode, too. I mean, just some fire in this episode, man.
February 22nd, 1974, we had Gordon Lightfoot as the host with guest appearances from The Guest Who, The James Gang. Byron McGregor gave a very interesting speech.
Yeah, I thought I was back in school.
Maria Muldaur had a couple excellent songs, and I personally had never heard of Maria until this episode, and that attitude, everything she had to bring to this one, wow.
This was really the height of the Midnight Special diversity. In a sense, a little bit of everything. And I mean, just some incredible performances. First of all, Gordon Lightfoot. You get some of the underknown ones. You get If You Could Read My Mind. You get the closing with Sundown. It was just brought the house down. But then you have the Guess Who, Canadian royalty. They crush it. The James Gang, one of the original, just, I will say, ass-kicking hard rock bands. And they bring it. Then you have Redbone.
Absolutely.
Crushing it full on. This is not to be, I'm not trying to be cultural. Indian gear. I don't know how else to say it. Headdress, everything. And what I love about it is Come and Get Your Love. When you hear it on the radio, or now I have it on my iPhone. I had it even before this. I love that song. It sounds more disco-y. It's not well produced, slick. The Midnight Special version is like live in concert, rock and roll, ass kicking. Thank you, I mean, it brought the house down on my laptop the last 2 nights ago.
And the whole drum solo and dance they did before the song to get into it, all the vibes, everything was fun there.
Fabulous. And then Maria Muldaur, just, Midnight at the Oasis. It's like a disco song. I apologize for saying. She sings it like not slick produced, like bluesy, which was just badass. And then I'm going to read it here so I don't get it wrong because I'm going to say, she sings "Don't You Feel My Leg," which I mean, absolute sexy blues. So hot you could cook an egg on her. I mean, are you kidding me? It was, she didn't tear the house down. She burned it down. I mean, the people in the audience were just like, oh my God, this is incredible. I mean, I've been blown away. Every episode I watch, something just blows me away. Redbone, incredible. I love that song. It was incredible. But Maria, just I mean, because I love the blues. It was the most blues. It just dripped the blues. It was you got to check it out.
Yeah, it was excellent to have some female representation on this episode too, because sometimes we have it, sometimes we don't, and this one, she brought the house down.
She was a lot of woman.
Yeah.
I mean, really. I mean, whoo.
Oh yeah. Yeah. No backup singers needed. She had it all.
No, she had it all.
Well, back into Gordon's performance. He started the show out with The List, and then he got into If You Could Read My Mind, Don Quixote, Affair on 8th Avenue, High and Dry, and finished the show off with Sundown.
Yes.
Yeah, big catalog of hits. I found it funny when he was doing Don Quixote. He says the crowd starts clapping on all the beats right off the beginning, and then you're gonna get tired, and then they all realize, and the clapping fades and they stop.
Yeah, it was. I loved his ensemble too, but he was great by himself, but he had the ensemble out there too. Really great stuff.
Yeah, and I wasn't familiar with the James Gang until the Midnight Special, and then I get to see how our chat room of people get so lively anytime they're on the show. And for me, I love seeing them bring that level of rock and roll to the balance of the show. It was hard. It went.
It was smoking, and I mean, it's Joe Walsh, so you have to know him from the Eagles, right?
All right,
that's his first band.
And then them jumping off the amps as they were smoking them. Woo.
Yeah, it was just that sound is just Joe Walsh, and it's 70s hard rock and roll. Just so great.
It has it, that's for sure. And then they did The Devil Is Singing Our Song, which I think I might have liked more than Standing in the Rain.
Yeah, I did too. It's so funny because they just have so many songs. Like which one are they gonna pick? So it was kind of neat that they played not the same three that you hear everywhere.
And I also wonder what politics goes into choosing them. You have the record label saying, "Hey, we need to push this album. Hey, do these songs, do those songs." Like, I wonder when we get Bird on here, we'll have to ask what goes into the choosing of the song lineups. Like maybe they don't want all heavy songs for 90 straight minutes on the show. Maybe they want to have a couple ballads in there. Who knows?
Well, yeah, and just like, hey, some of their bigger hits were 4 years ago, so let's push the newer ones.
Yeah, maybe that's why the Guess Who chose their songs, Share the Land and Star Baby.
Well, Share the Land is just an ultimate classic, and it kind of fit into the mood of just kind of, this was a little more hippie-ish.
I love seeing them in their hockey jerseys. I thought that was funny.
Well, yeah, that's like a Canadian tuxedo.
Yeah, something you'd appreciate.
Yes, I did. I really did.
Wow. Yeah, one of the things that I wanted to point out and remember for all of our younger listeners, the resurgence of Redbone, Come and Get Your Love, that was repopularized by all of the Guardians of the Galaxy movies.
Oh, is that true?
Yeah,
I never saw any of those movies. I always think it was it's on the Burger King commercial too, or something, right?
Oh wow, I'm not sure about that.
It's definitely on a commercial. Like, come and
I'm certain they've used it on a commercial.
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
How could you not?
Yeah.
But the tape deck that they have as a plot point going through all the Guardians of the Galaxy movie has so many songs that relate back to the playlist of the Midnight Special.
Oh yeah, of course.
So it'll be very interesting to see the correlation if we had someone do a list of all the songs that were in those movies and all the songs that were on the show, because I know they talk about King Crimson, they talk about or have Heart on there, they have everyone in those movies that we have performances on our show. So it's a fun cultural crossover.
I mean, because obviously they Come and Get Your Love. Do you agree with me how like The Rock, the unslicked version is just insane.
So much better. It's raw. You feel them. You feel all of it.
Yeah, it was like, whoa, this is just fabulous.
Yeah, kudos to the people mixing and doing all the work behind the scenes at the Midnight Special to get that sound.
Yeah, and I won't talk. I will not talk anymore about Maria. Everyone knows my feelings.
Well, I'll fill in the space about Maria's performance then. She had some psychedelic camera work going on from the Midnight Special crew. They were using some interesting filters where they had some kaleidoscope going on. There was probably cutting edge for that time. So I always appreciate the little extra work going on behind the scenes.
You know, it's interesting. I almost think they wanted to make the camera a little wacky because it got really intense, if you know what I mean.
Right. Yeah.
Let's confuse these young kids. They don't know what they're hearing.
Well, then they probably had to use Ravi Shankar to calm everyone down with not as intense music, but yeah, very spiritual, very different. But that's what you could get with the Midnight Special. This episode really had eclectic versions of it all from everywhere.
It really, there's so many changes of pace.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I wonder where Bert was referred to and got all of the different music he did, because I know he's picked a lot of it that was based off his taste. That I'm sure he had record labels pressuring him and asking him to get different groups in, but he always mixed it up pretty well over the years, and that was something that everyone seems to appreciate from episode to episode.
Absolutely. And I mean, he was on, we've talked about this before, but there's like 4 channels, and he was on NBC. I'm sure a few agents tried to get their people on.
All right, well, let's hear what you guys have to say and your memories of Gordon Lightfoot. We have a submission from Scoot Suits. I've lived in Michigan my whole life, and Gordon Lightfoot's music is popular in the Great Lakes states, especially the wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald. When I was in elementary school, we learned both the original lyrics as well as a rewritten lyric that my teacher created to teach us about Michigan lighthouses. I was genuinely moved when Detroit's Mariners Church rang the bell in his honor when he died. The legacy of Gordon Lightfoot remains embraced by Michigan.
Absolutely. And plus, Detroit's hockey town, so there's a little mix in there, too. All right, next we have at Dwayne W. Lady KA 577. I've been a big fan of Gordon Lightfoot for many years. He has the ability to make me feel like you are right there in his songs. The depth of emotion, the way he has with his words, are so unique. Canadian Railroad Trilogy, Early Morning Rain, If You Could Read My Mind, You Are What I Am, and The Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald are classics. One of our iconic Canadian singer-songwriters. In 2010, I saw Gordon Lightfoot live in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, front row center, and I met him and his band after the show. Cheers.
All right.
But great seats there. Gordon Lightfoot.
All right. Burn in Hell Screw Tube. Everything stops the moment sundown starts. Every man knows the Edmund Fitzgerald by heart. Every woman knows If You Could Read My Mind. As a songwriter and performer, what more could one ask?
That is the truth. I think having 3 completely iconic songs that even a young heavy metal hard rock kid loves and knows the words to. Well, I know the words to 2 of them. Lord knows I don't know the exact words to the Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald, or I would have known it was in Michigan.
Seeing people sing your music but maybe not know your face or know who you are, I think that as a musician is like the goal, to be able to walk or down the street or sit in a bus or something and know that your song's touching people and not be recognized. I think that would be so fun. Maybe some people would love the visual recognition.
Right.
Not me as much, but yeah.
Well, I mean, the fact it's been over 50 years.
Right.
And we still know the songs. That's what lasts. When your art lasts, it's a tribute. All right, Tim Legary, 985. I saw Gordy several times. In the middle 80s at Saratoga Performing Arts Center, he was singing a song he had written for his ex-wife who had left him. Halfway through, he had an emotional breakdown. Tickets were refunded if desired. Many people chose not to. So Gordy came back the next year. He introduced the song, acknowledged the previous year's sad moment, and thanked fans for their understanding and generosity. Hopefully, he'll get through it this time. He did. And he got a standing ovation, thanking his audience about 10 times. Damn, my eyes started leaking. People were hugging strangers. What a moment. Yeah, man, that is just, you got to love when music brings people together like that. It's just, and powerful. And I love the fact that he just acknowledged it, apologized, offered money back, and then came back and crushed it the next year. That's fabulous. Just the emotion of people, everyone being in that, just there. You have to be there.
And I think that's one of the differences that we haven't acknowledged yet about this is a folk singer. It's not pop music. It's not big band stuff. It's like these people are really a lot of emotional stuff. It's very singer-songwriter, one individual person. Like there's a lot of intimate stuff from this type of music. And that's what's so respectable about this whole era and generation. The single guy with a guitar up there. It's so impressive.
Well, that's what was interesting about the episode, whereas he was, he had like the folky people sitting there and then just there. And all of a sudden, and here comes Redbone, just absolutely destroying the place. And then Maria doing her thing. And they're just the little folk people like, oh my God.
You just got to melt them and expose them to new things once in a while.
Yeah.
All right, Richard Ernsberger, 5692. Great lineup, great show, a few iconic 70s performers. Big fan of the Guess Who, outstanding group, but the hockey jerseys they were wearing were very UN 70s, haha. Hard to believe this was 50 years ago. Oh my.
Yeah, well, they want to show their Canadian roots. Theodore Gray, 5363. So I was a Yankee kid who had just moved to Toronto in 77. Some kids in my class invited me to a Halloween party and gave me the address. I was so excited that maybe I had made some new friends. I showed up at the house in my costume and rang the doorbell. The door opened and it was Gordon Lightfoot. There was no party. I had been pranked. I think Gordon could have seen the disappointment on my face and was very kind to me. He gave me a quick little tour of his home and showed me his practice space and guitars. I'll never forget that moment of kindness. Thank you, Gordon. Well, he was a gentle soul, and obviously he could read your mind.
I was watching.
Try the field.
I was watching a documentary about Gordon this week, and he took everyone into his guitar room. And it was interesting because he had to stop, and he said, "Oh, I haven't watered my guitars. You have to water them like flowers." And he has to keep them all humidified and everything, obviously. And so that's what he was doing. But it was cute to have like a whole guitar space. And I imagine that was the space this guy was going into. Who knows if it's the same this time period and then match up. But
you can tell it's the 70s too, because nowadays you'd never, this musician down the street took me into his room to show me his guitars. Half the parents of this country would be calling the police.
All right, Great Tunes 67. If there was only one episode of Midnight Special to survive and represent the show, this is the one, the definitive episode. What a lineup. The Guess Who, James Gang, Redbone, etc. Wow. And the legendary Gordon Lightfoot is host and performing as well.
I agree. I mean, this kind of encapsulates the whole deal. There's rock and roll, there's folk, there's sexy time, there's Redbone crushing it, and Gordon Lightfoot.
It had everything. It's what the Midnight Special was all about.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're glad you enjoyed that episode and all of them to come, and we love you having you contribute to the podcast, but more importantly, listen to the podcast. If you want to get some merch, go to our Shopify store. You can check it on the link below this description. You can become a YouTube member for $4.99 and see the Midnight Special episodes every Monday morning, and join us on the live chat Friday nights for the weekly episodes of the Midnight Special. Thanks again. Please keep sending us your submissions to the Midnight Special Podcast at gmail.com or message us on social media. Once again, I just want to thank Bert. I want to thank Mike, and I want to thank all you guys for making this possible, because once a week, I just have a great time talking about great music.